यहाँ से सीता मऊ, तहाँ से नौलाई, तहाँ से आए उज्जैन 28 मजल भई। तहाँ से आए उज्जैन 28 मजल भई। यहाँ से सीता मऊ। बोलो श्री प्राणनाथ प्यारे की जय, सदगुरु महाराज की जय। Dear Sundarsaji, I would like to welcome you to the yet another session of our Beetak Discourse. We are in Aurangabad now. Mahamati Prananath, on yesterday's session, we talked about Mahamati Prananath's journey from Udaipur to Mandasore, the advent of 6 chapters of Viraha, Viraka Prakaran, that we find in the book of Kirantan, that rescued the Sundarsaji from the impending dangers at the hand of Aurangzeb's soldiers, because Aurangzeb's attacks Udaipur. The king of Udaipur, Rasing Rana, had to leave Udaipur. So all the Sundarsaji were in trouble. For that, Mahamati Prananath asked for Raja's help in their security, and they were rescued by these 6 verses of Viraha. So the glory of these chapters are well received, well known by Sundarsats, that whenever we run into any troubles in our lives, whenever we feel that something's missing, whenever we feel like we really need the help of Sri Raji Maharaj or the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj, we recite these 6 chapters. And the chapters from Meher Sagar, the final chapter of the book of Sagar. So we sing these chapters, Meher Sagar and Viraka Prakaran, whenever we feel like we need the need of Raji Maharaj's grace. And they are the part of daily recitation of Tartam. That's why they are called Nitya Part. They are the part of the regular recitations. Mahamati Prananath arrives in Aurangabad from Sitamo and Naulai, and from there on he goes to Ujjain, and then finally arrives in Aurangabad. Mahamati Prananath is awakening, as you all know, both the Hindus and the Muslims. He is revealing the Vedas, he is revealing the Upanishads, he is revealing the Puranas for the Hindus, while he is making the explanations, is describing the teachings of Quran for the Muslims, and in both ways he is awakening both Hindus and the Muslims. As Mahamati Prananath says, Muslim ko Muslim ki, Hindu ko Hinduon ki tarah, ye sab samajhe apne mein jab aabe Imam aakhara. He is the last Imam, last messenger of God. He is the incarnation of God himself, and when he comes, it was prophesied that both the Hindus and Muslims would be awakened in their own ways. Muslims through the Vedas, Hindus from the Vedic revelations, and the Muslims from the Islamic revelations. So he has both Hindus and Muslim disciples listening to him, following his lead, and awakening their souls. While Mahamati Prananath leaves Udaipur and gets to Rampura, he sends Mukunda Das, Kesav Das, Khimai Bhai, and Ballabh to औरंगाबाद. तब वो वहां से मुकुंद दास को और जो केशव दास, खीमाई और बल्लभ भेजे भाव. Mahamati Prananath sent these 4 Sundarsats to the place of Bhavsinghara, who is the king of Aurangabad. As you all know, Mahamati Prananath is still in a pursuit of kings and emperors because he is looking for Sakundal Saki. Mahamati Prananath has already realized that Aurangzeb has the spirit or the consort of Sakumar Bai. So he is still looking for Sakundal. His effort to awaken Sakumar Bai was partially successful because Aurangzeb realizes that Mahamati Prananath was indeed the Imam Mehdi, and the Sundarsats that he sent to him were indeed the moments. While we talked about this fact the other day, while he does not embrace the marifat in hakikat of Islam, the divine revelations that were hidden in the book of Quran, and the description of that came through the revelation of Dharma. However, he realizes at the end of his life, truly that he regrets that he could not truly embrace the teaching of Mahamati Prananath. Imam had come to my home, he says, but I could not accept the divinity of him, the divine revelation that he brought forth. So life is all wasted, life has been gone astray, says Aurangzeb when he sends a letter to his son at the end of his life, near the end of his life. So Mahamati Prananath is looking for a king. While Mahamati Prananath was in Udaipur, he really thought that Rasing Radha could be that soul, could be the Sakundal Sakhi of Paramdham. Mahamati Prananath tried to awaken him in every way possible, but until one has the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj, one has that karma, good karma, then the soul cannot be awakened. Until that soul has the Ankur, the spirit of the consort of Paramdham, then it is hard for anyone to awaken such souls. As such, Mahamati Prananath says in book of Kirtan, chapter 79, verse number 29, Kadi sauvar saraho shatame dhani anubhava sauvera mula ankura daya vina le karame dare andera. The Sundarsats, the individuals, the jivas that even if they get to stay with Sundarsats for hundreds of years and they experience the glory of Sri Raji Maharaj, until they have the spirit of Paramdham, Mula Ankur, and the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj, Daya Bina, Le Karme Dare Andera, their karma would drag them to the world itself, and they would not find a path to eternal glory. So, Rasing Rana, the king of Udaipur, he had numerous chances. He even hid himself behind a house or a tree to listen to the discourse of Mahamati Prananath. He was impressed by the description of eternal Ras by Mahamati Prananath. He had numerous opportunities to awaken his soul, but like I said, until there is the Ankur, there is the spirit of Paramdham and the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj, the souls, the jiva, cannot find the path to eternality. As such, Mahamati Prananath says in book of Kirtan again, Kripa karani mafaka, kripa mafaka karani, edo mafaka ankura ke kai kripa jatanagini. The grace of Raji falls according to our karma, and our karma is guided by the grace of Sri Raji, and these two go hand in hand. And both the changes in our karma and the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj is dependent on the spirit inside our soul. If we are the soul of Paramdham, then Raji guides us to improvise our karma, and in the meantime, he graces us with his gracefulness. So, once that spirit resides within us, then Raji Maharaj finds a way to grace us in infinite ways. The Rana, the Rasing Rana, the king of Udaipur, did not have the spirit of Paramdham, did not have the spirit of one of the consorts of Paramdham. As such, he could not be awakened. Although he got to hear from Prananath, he got to hear the discourse of Prananath, he got to hear about Prananath, yet he failed to awaken his souls. Mahamati Prananath had already sent to the place of Bhav Singh Hada in Aurangabad, Mukunda Dasi, Kesav Dasi, Kimai Bhai, and Vallabh. Mahamati Prananath gets to Ujjain. And you might already be aware that Ujjain is one of the places where Kumbh Mela occurs every 12 years. As we already talked about Kumbh Mela, There are 4 places where Kumbh Mela happens: in Haridwar, Prayag, Ujjain, and Nasik. So we all know the history behind Kumbh Mela. There was a fight between the deities and the demons one time, and then to end the fight, to end the war between the 2 warring parties, what they do is they churn the ocean. They churn the ocean, and a pot of nectar is found. There was a tussle between the deities and the demons for the possession of that nectar. And in that tussle, 4 drops of nectar fall in the rivers of these cities: Haridwar, Prayag, Ujjain, and Nasik. And as such, every 12 years in each of these cities, Kumbh Mela happened, and millions of Hindu pilgrims visit and take a dip in the rivers around these cities, where it was believed that 4 drops of nectar, a drop each, fell on. So Mahamati Prananath arrives in Ujjain and awakens some people there. He does not get to stay there for too long, but he is there in Ujjain. So Mahamati Prananath stays in Ujjain for 22 days. And on the other side, Mukunda Dasi, Kesav Dasi, Kimai, and Vallabh are the ones that are trying to reach the king of Aurangabad, Vahab Singh Hara. They are there for a few months, yet they do not find a way to meet him. They are there for 4 months, and at the end of such a long time and their failure to meet Vahab Singh Hara, Mukunda Dasi realizes that it's probably a good thing. It is probably good that they return to Prananath. So he feels like it is worth returning to Prananath, but again, in the meantime, he realizes that it does not probably make sense for him to go back until he meets the king of Aurangabad, Vahab Singh Hara, because Prananath had ordered him to meet him and try to awaken him. So for 4 months, they are begging for foods. They are promoting the teachings of Vedanta. They are promoting the teachings of Mahamati Prananath. They are awakening people with the teachings of Mahamati Prananath. Krishna's Tridalila, among other concepts, were revealed to the people. Yet the primary goal of Mukunda Das in these 4 Sundar Sats was to meet Vahab Singh Hara and try to awaken him. So Mukunda Das is there. He sends back the other 3 Sundar Sats. And Mukunda Das still tries to find a way to awaken Vahab Singh Hara and meet him. For that, he prepares some questions from Bhagavata in Vedanta. And he waits for a right moment. He waits for a moment that he could meet Vahab Singh Hara. And in the palace of Vahab Singh Hara, there was a saint named Ramadas. Mahanta Ramadas rahe tina dekhe beech bazara mile Mukunda Das ko pahunchaya na de para. Mukunda Dasi meets Ramadas. He was a saint of Vahab Singh Hara, the king of Aurangabad. When they meet in the market, Mukunda Dasi is holding a small bag, and they started a small, short religious debate. Mukunda Dasi and Ramdasi started talking, and they had a short debate on Sri Krishna and the Leelas of Sri Krishna. And Mukunda Dasi started talking about the 3 distinct Leelas of Sri Krishna. So Mukunda Dasi started talking about 3 distinct forms of Sri Krishna. One, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu that come to this world in every Dwapar Yuga to rescue the people from the clutches of Kamsa. So Vishnu incarnation, he also talks about Sri Krishna of Goloka, and he also talks about the Sri Krishna of Paramdham. So these three distinct forms and leelas of Sri Krishna, as Mukunda Dasi reveals, Ram Dasi becomes really upset because it is something that he had never heard before. How dare you, says Ram Dasi, how dare you talk about Sri Krishna in such a way? Why are you dividing Sri Krishna into 2, 3 forms? Sri Krishna is one. So he is not ready to admit the fact that there are 3 distinct forms and leelas of Sri Krishna. And as we have already talked about, the leelas of Sri Krishna are not as straightforward. They are complicated for an ordinary jiva to understand. Krishna ki leela atapati. Krishna's leelas are not straightforward. They are complicated. As such, people do not understand it that easily. Zatapata lakhina koi. Manaki khatapata java miti zatapata darshana way. As one understands the true leelas and true the essence of Sri Krishna, then one gets the darshana of Sri Krishna, one gets the realization of the glory of Sri Krishna. So as Mukunda Dasi is revealing the secrets of Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna's leelas, Ram Das is not happy with it. So what he does is he beats him. He beats Mukunda Dasi and asks him to leave Aurangabad. Mukunda Dasi feels really helpless because it is not his place. He is in somebody's place and he is not welcomed. The awakened soul of Mukunda Dasi is truly upset with the treatment of Ram Das. He does not give up. He does not leave Aurangabad because his spiritual master Prananath had asked him to meet the king. So regardless of how he is treated, he goes into hiding. He doesn't want Ram Das to know that he is still there. But he does not leave Aurangabad. Jo Aurangabad rahega to hum marenge fir. I'll beat you again. I'll beat you up if you stay in Aurangabad. Jo badaraha kare bhav singh ko to hum mare. Dusari bera. If you try to meet the king, if you try to meet Bhav Singh, then I'll beat you again and again. So the warning of Ram Das, he was a saint and he was using such words of criticism. He was beating Mukunda Dasi. A saint was beating the other saint. यूं करके जब छोड़िया तब मुकुंद दास किया विचार दज्जाल मिलने न दे बही में हूँ खबरदार. Mukunda Das realized that this enemy of truth, this Dajjal, is not letting me have a one-on-one meeting with Bhav Singh Hada, so I will have to be more careful. So somehow Mukunda Dasi knew that the king of Aurangabad, Bhav Singh Hada, visits a temple on a regular basis. Mukunda Dasi realizes that if I go to Mahamati Prananath without meeting the king of Aurangabad, then people would make fun of me. I would be feeling that I had failed Prananath. So I will have to meet the king, regardless of any difficulties I may have to face. So there was a temple of a goddess. So in that temple, Bhav Singh Hada would come and offer his prayers on a regular basis. Mukunda Dasi hid behind the temple And one day when he saw the king come to the temple, he gave the king a letter, the token of love from Mahamati Prananaji, and some questions of Bhagavata and Vedanta. भाव सिंह सिर चढ़ाए के लई थैली सबखत भीतर जाए के बुलाए मुकुंद दासी को चित्त. As he entered the temple, he called Mukunda Dasi inside. He started reading the letters sent by Mahamati Prananaji. He began looking at the questions of Vedanta and Bhagavad. As soon as he saw the letters from Prananaji, as soon as he saw the questions from Bhagavad and Vedanta, the king of Aurangabad, Bhav Singh Hada, asked the questions to Mukunda Dasi, and he asked about Mahamati Prananaji. पूछी हकीकत श्री राज की, कहाँ है स्वामी कृष्ण दास, तुमको क्यों कर भेजिया, कहो अपने दिल आस. He asked about Prananaji, who wrote him a letter. Why did he send you here? How is he? And as soon as he started reading the questions of Vedanta and Bhagavad, the saint Ramdas came close by. As he came there, he talked to the king and said, why are you even talking to him? This guy is already dividing Lord Krishna into 2 or 3 parts. He says Krishnas have different forms. He talks about distinctions of Krishna Leelas. You should not be talking to him. Why did he come here? I had actually chased him away from Aurangabad. I warned him not to come to Aurangabad again. तब भाव सिंह बोलिया, ऐसी काहे कहो तुम, ये तो भला कहता है निज स्वरूप बतावत हम. Then the king says, oh Saint Ramdas, why are you saying all these things? Whatever he is saying, it is about the awakening of our soul. He's saying there are nice things. He is awakening ourselves. He's talking about self-awakening. He's talking about self-realization. There is some seriousness in the topic of his discussions. There are some secrets. Do not rush. Do not make any judgments about him. As Ramdas is hesitant to listen to what Mukunda Das ji had to say, Bhav Singh realizes that Ramdas is jealous of Mukunda Das ji and his intellect. Bhav Singh जानिया ये दज्जाल हराम खोरा, ये इनका दुश्मन, तो करता ऐसा सुर. Bhav Singh was a good man, a good king. So when Ramdas was jealous of him and was critical of Mukunda Das, he realized that Ramdas was indeed a man with ulterior motives. He asked Ramdas to arrange a place, a mansion for Mukunda Das to stay. Thora Devo Mukunda Das ko hamare haveli pasha. Arrange a place for him to stay nearby my palace. तब रामदास बोलिया, इनकी सेवा की हमने आशा. Then Ramdas says, let him be my guest. I will take care of him. I would let him stay in my place. I'll welcome him. I'll be happy to have him. I'll be happy to serve him. Mukunda Dasi realized that this is not going in the right direction. If I stay in his place, he'll beat me up again. I don't know how I'll be treated. So, as Ramdas says, Utare hama apane garo, taba Mukunda Das kahi vachanna. Mukunda Das broke his silence and says, He has already served me well. He took off his shirt. Then all the marks of Ramdas' beatings were visible to the king. इन सेवा हमारी भली करी पीठ दिखाई देता। देख पीठ भाव सिंह को बड़ा जो हुआ दुख, धक्का दे उठाए दज्जाल को बुरी गाली दे मुख। As soon as the king, Bhav Singh, saw the back of Mukunda Dasi, the marks of beating, the mistreatment of the sage, the saint, Ramdas, then he became truly upset and angry. He criticized him. How dare you? Being a saint, you are beating, you are not treating the other saint right. This is how the guests are treated in my country, in my city. How dare you? You are such a demon. He just took out so many curse words and asked him to leave his country. You are not worthy of my respect. And he asked him to leave the country. He expelled him from this country. जो मेरे यहाँ आवता ताकि ऐसी सेवा करता, निकसो हमारे देश से, जाओ देश में देता। There are so many other saints in the palace of Bhav Singh. Mukunda Dasi was welcomed in the palace. Mukunda Das की निशा करी, प्रश्न पूछे पंडित न करो, इनका जवाब हुए दिल रोशन। There are so many pandits, so many saints that are engaged in the service of Bhav Singh. They are all engaged in ritualistic prayers. They do not have the understanding of the divine. They do not have the understanding of the beyond. They are doing it to feed their family. Because a lot of saints and sages today are engaged in spiritual pursuits to feed their families, to provide for their families. It says, Mahamati Prananath says in the book of Kirtan, Udara karana beche hari ko muro yehi paaye rozgar, marati mukha upar tako le jaye jamadwara. There are so many of these saints and religious scholars that sell the name of God to feed their families. Those people would be sent to hell because they have done it for ulterior motives. The spiritual goals, the spiritual pursuits, the spiritual practices should be for the awakening of soul, for the union with the Lord, not for feeding our families, not for providing food, not for providing for our families. So these saints, these religious scholars at the palace of Bhav Singh are doing the same thing. As they are listening to the descriptions, the explanations of Mukunda Das in the palace, they are jealous of Mukunda Dasi. As they are questioning the judgment and understanding of Mukunda Dasi asked for a religious debate with these pandits, these religious scholars that are employed in the palace of Bhav Singh Harda. So Mukunda Dasi asked for a religious debate. Okay, if we want to settle this, let's have a religious debate. If I lose, you can expel me from Aurangabad. You can circumambulate me in a cart, putting a garland of shoes. That is the worst defamation one can have. So if I lose, I'm ready to bear any consequences. And if they lose, they would do the same. So Mukunda Dasi was a scholar of Vedas, Vedanta, Bhagavata, Upanishads. He was such an intellect. He had such an intellect. And on top of that, he was awakened with the awakened consciousness of Atma. So he would not be defeated, as we might already be aware. Raja Bhav Singh agreed. Let's have that. So the king asked his religious scholars, Pandits, to prepare some questions for Mukunda Dasi, and asked the same for Mukunda Dasi, prepare some questions. Mukunda Dasi prepared 23 questions. Prashna 80 पंडितों लिखी 23 ही मुकुंद दास 15 दिन की मोहलत भई क्यों ये हुए विश्राम. So these pandits prepared 80 questions. Mukunda Dasi prepared 23 questions. Mukunda Dasi, right then and there, answered all these 80 questions that these religious saints and sages had, the scholars had. But the 23 questions Mukunda Dasi had, they could not answer a single question. So they asked for 2 weeks to submit their answers to Mukunda Dasi. So the king agreed, okay, I'll give you 2 weeks. If you do not have an answer by then you would be facing the consequences. So these pandits are given a certain amount of pay every day. पंडित रोज पावत रुपये 10-20 जब उत्तर दोगे प्रश्न का तब हम करें बख्शिश. The king said, your pay would be cut for these 15 days. If you find an answer in these 15 days and you come back with answers, that is when I will start paying you. Until then, you will not be paid. They looked for answers here and there, these pandits, these religious scholars. They started getting worried. उत्तर तो आवे नहीं तब रात को किया विचार चला आए मुकुंद दास पे कहे हम पर होता है मार. So the days passed by, and on the 14th day, and at the night, all the pandits, all these religious scholars came to Mukunda Dasi and asked, is that why you came here? That you could undermine us? Is that what your master had taught you? That you take from other religious saints and scholars? We would be expelled from the palace. We would lose our job. We would not be able to provide for our families. Is that what you truly want? So these saints, these religious scholars that were serving the king, came to Mukunda Dasi and started begging for his help. जो स्वामी जी यूं ही कहा कि रोटी भानो पंडित ना तो हमारा क्या चारा संतोष पकड़े मन. They started blackmailing Mukunda Dasi. If that is what you want our families to go hungry. If you want us to lose our jobs, then we have nothing to say to you. But we must all agree that that is probably not what your spiritual master wants. We believe that that is not what Prananath wants. Mukunda Dasi realized that these are the Brahmins, so I should be kind to them, and they've already begged for help. Mukunda Dasi went to Bhav Singh, the king, the next morning, and he said, these guys cannot answer my questions. These guys are not awakened. These guys are not erudite in the teachings of the Vedas. The answers to these questions can only be found when they are awakened with Dharma. Without Tartam, these questions cannot be answered. Tartama jnana hathakaralino chiranirako nirnaikino. With the awakened consciousness of Tartam, we can distinguish between Maya and the Brahma. And all the questions can be answered. That's why Tartam is considered to be Beetak Ilam, Sankarahit Gyan, the intellect that is not questionable. So Bhav Singh realized that, okay, I have employed these people that do not have any understanding of the Vedas, of the Vedic scriptures. Mukanadasi was welcomed. These religious saints and sages that were serving the king had their pay cut significantly because they are of no use. And Mukanadasi started giving the discourse of Krishna Lila and creation and all those things to Bhav Singh Harda. Dina dusare tisare nike diye jo kana taratama nike suniya hoye gai pehchana. Bolo Sri Prananath Pyare ki jai. After 2-3 days of discourse with Mukanadasi, the soul of Bhav Singh was awakened. He received the Tartam mantra from Mukanadasi and became his disciple. Mukanadasi was asked by the king, Guruji, can you ask Prananath to come to Aurangabad, because he became his disciple. So Bhav Singh was ready to welcome Prananath, the spiritual master of his spiritual master, Guruji of his Guruji. So he arranged hundreds of horses, elephants, and hundreds of soldiers, hundreds of armies to the service to welcome Mahamati Prananath. He gave him some accommodations. He arranged some accommodations, gave him some amount. Mahamati Prananath was there in Mandasur, and Mukanadasi went there and welcomed Prananath with hundreds of horses, elephants, and armies. And finally, Mahamati Prananath meets Bhav Singh. Bhav Singh aaye ke laga do kadama dekha didara in samay krita janiyatama. He felt truly blessed, truly lucky. He greeted Mahamati Prananath, touching his lotus feet, and started serving him. And all the Sundar Sadhis that were with Prananath, they got the warmest welcome that they could get. The same Sundar Sadhis that were begging foods earlier, the same Sundar Sadhis that were in plain clothes, plain loin clothes covering their body, that were living the life of renunciates, they were welcomed by hundreds of armies, horses and elephants. They were served the greatest delicacies, all different kinds of dishes. They were welcomed in royal palace, and such was the state of Sundar Sadhji and Prananath. Bhav Singh was a true devotee of God. As soon as he got to meet Prananath and learned the glory of Prananath and his teachings, then he became even more devoted to Sri Krishna, even more devoted to the teachings of Mahamati Prananath. Mahamati Prananath is awakening Sundar Sadhs again in Aurangabad. Mahamati Prananath has not still given up on Aurangzeb. He wants to awaken him yet again, because he is destroying the temples. He is not treating Hindus right again. He is totally engaged in ritualistic prayers, not understanding the Hakikat and Marfat, the true understanding of Quran. So Mahamati Prananaji talks about the awakening of Aurangzeb because Aurangabad is also fearful of Aurangzeb that it could be attacked. So Bhav Singh Hada has 4 Muslim employees with him, his associates. So Mahamati Prananaji was asked if these 4 Muslims can be awakened, if these 4 Muslims regard you as Imam Mahdi, if they receive the Tartam mantra voluntarily, then I would have no fear fighting. I would have no fear of you reaching out to Aurangzeb, and I'd be ready to have my armies ready for any war that may happen between us and Aurangzeb. So Mahamati Prananaji reveals the secrets of Quran. Mihin Khan, Jahan Muhammad, and other moments or other Muslims came to the discourse of Mahamati Prananaji, and they have the discourse through the night. Eka taraf alalada duji bhavani vatta charsa Qurana bhagavata ki hota hai latapata. On the one side, Bhavani Bhatta is giving the discourse from Bhagavat, and on the other side, Lal Dasi, the closest disciples of Mahamati Prananaji, one of the closest. Lal Dasi is unraveling the teachings of Quran, and Mahamati Prananaji comes in between every now and then and tries to awaken both the Hindus and the Muslims. And like I already said, there are some fundamental similarities between the teachings of Islam and the teachings of Hinduism. In Hindu scriptures, there are 14 lokas, 7 ethereal worlds and 7 heavenly worlds, and Quran says the same thing. There are 4 types of prayers, 4 types of dispositions in one's bhakti: Sariyat, Tariqat, Hakikat, and Marifat in Quran. And Karma, Upasana, Gyan, and Vigyan in Hinduism. There are so many similarities. On the one side, Bhavani Bhatta is explaining the teachings of the Vedas, and the other side, Lal Das is explaining the identical teachings of Quran. So both the Hindus and the Muslims are awakened side by side. The 3 types of creations, 3 types of souls, the same thing. Nasut, Malkut, Jabrut, Lahut, Mrityulok, Vaikuntha, Akshardham, Paramdham, the identical concepts were revealed. And thus, in Aurangabad, the king, Bhav Singh Hada, along with his Muslim disciples, are awakened, and they are ready to take the lead and stand against the terror of Aurangzeb. So Mahamati Prananaji eventually leaves from Aurangabad as Bhav Singh Hada passes away, and he does not get a chance to fight against Aurangzeb. Mahamati Prananaji realizes that although Bhav Singh Hada was awakened, he was not the Sakundal Sakhi he was looking for. So Mahamati Prananaji leaves for Ramnagar. That is a setting that sets a stage for a meeting between Mahamati Prananaji and Maharaja Satrasal, the Sakundal Sakhi of Paramdham. That would be the topic for tomorrow's discussions. So Sundar Saji, I thank you so much once again for being here, and we're nearing the end of this discourse. It'll probably be about 2 weeks or 3 weeks max that we'll wrap it up. And for these 50 to 53 days, as many days that you participated in this discourse, I'm truly grateful. And the numbers seem to be decreasing a little, but we might be aware that even when Mahamati Prananaji would give discourse in Banglaji Mandir in Pannadham, when he would be explaining the features of Paramdham. When he would be explaining Hausakoshra, Talab, Pukharaji Pahad, Manik Pahad, and all those features of Paramdham, there would rarely be 100 Sundar Sats listening to his revelations and discourse, while there were 5,000 Sundar Sats that had accompanied him to Panna. So the true teachings, the true revelations, the true discourse of Mahamati Prananaji, his life, is not for everyone to embrace. So realizing that fact, those of you who are listening regularly, those who are being the part of this discourse on a regular basis, without any expectations for recognition and name and all that, I'm truly grateful. I'm truly proud of you all. Thank you all so much. With this, I conclude my remarks for today. Pranamji. Pranam.